You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in.
I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, I'm bringing you one of my dearest realtor friends, and I know y'all hear me say that a lot, but I mean it for real this time. I've got Kent Redding from Austin, Texas. He is a leader in every sense of the way, so you're going to enjoy this conversation. I'll see you on the other side. Yay!
Hey, friend, can you hear me?
I can. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. I'm glad to see your face.
I know. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this. I put on clean socks and everything for you.
I mean, is that jacket made out of shark skin? Because that's what it looks like from here. Is it
No, it's
velour?
just an incredibly good-looking jacket that I love to wear. It makes me feel good.
Is it ultra suede? Because that was a thing back when you and I were a little younger.
Yeah, no, it's really like Amazon $39, but everybody loves it. So I'm like, I'm wearing this jacket.
I mean, it's a pride point, but it's also a little sad when we have to go to Amazon to get clothes.
Oh, I know. I hate it. I know. Oh, it's terrible.
Well,
What
I'm
about
so
you? How have
glad
you been?
I've got no complaints except for the pollen, but it's sunshiny outside here and it's going to be 80 today.
I know. As a realtor, pollen is the bane of our existence. I swear. This time of the year, we're trying to take photos. It's terrible.
Well, and my car is always covered in a film. And then I
Yep.
had to explain to somebody the other day, I'm actually not smoking crack. My eyes are only red because I can't see anymore. And I look like this all the time because I can't open my eyes.
I know. Hey, super grateful you had me on. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's pretty timely because ABOR and Unlock were just quoted in the big giant article about CCP.
We were. Hopefully, we won't get too much into CCP and board
I'd
stuff.
rather not.
Yeah,
I
I'd
mean,
rather not.
regular people don't care about it. And honestly, Kent, I don't think most realtors care about it.
Yeah. I mean, I care about it, but I'm still moving forward 100%, no matter what's out there. My biz is fantastic. And now more than ever, they trust those that are experienced, right? Buyers and sellers.
It's very true because every time the headlines get heated up, I get a text or a phone call. What's going on? I'm like, you're not moving. Settle down.
Yeah, exactly. Worst realtor ever. Never sell. Never sell.
Yeah, but I am such a buy and hold person. That's why, like, even the stock market being down, I'm like, I'm not retiring today. I don't look at it. I'm good.
Exactly.
Well, why don't we start off by telling the audience who Kent Redding is, where you're located, and how long you've been in the business? Give them a little bit of a thumbnail snapshot of, well, the Austin Board of Realtors' immediate past president.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Kent Redding, as you said, and I was born and raised in Texas, lifetime Texan resident. My first half of my career, I was an entrepreneur. Right as I got out of college, I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and so I had small businesses throughout Texas, mall-based business, and that was really the first half of my life, and that's where I learned, marketing and customer service, and how to take care of clients and deal with employees and situations around that. I retired from that and did a little soul searching, talked to some pastors, business leaders. What's the next thing? What's the next thing for Kent? And this, becoming a realtor came up a few times and not something that would have been on my radar at all. In fact, you would go, I don't know, are you sure? But did a bunch of studying and met with some agents and flew out to Memphis. I have a cousin agent in Memphis, Tennessee, and flew out and rode around the car with her and made the decision, came back, locked and loaded 21 years later. Still doing it and love every minute. Best thing I've ever done.
You might be the first realtor I've ever met who researched real estate before getting in. I mean, every other person has a friend that says, you'd be great. And they're like, oh, okay. And they go get the license and then they just start flying through it. And you actually interviewed practitioners before you got in. What did they say to you when you went out, especially your cousin in Memphis? What was the response when you said, I'm thinking about real estate? Was it, come on, get in the car? Or was it, yeah, get in, it's fine?
Well, I was a little fortunate doing it at, my early 40s, late 30s, where I was established. I had a sphere of influence. I knew about business. I knew about talking to people, working with people. That is an advantage from someone that just gets in brand new. So I felt very experienced, and I'd had 20 retail locations and 400 employees. So I dealt with a lot. And so I felt comfortable with that. My concern was, to be honest, Leigh, was I was always kind of the clown at church. I'm always the one to put the balloons on my head and play with the children in the nursery and, wear the clown shoes and all that. So I was kind of known as this goofball, right? So I was worried that my sphere of influence would think, honey, we should call Kent. And then the other spouse at the kitchen table would go, don't know about that, kind of a goofball. So that was part of my journey. Was I went and met with my cousin in Memphis, rode around the car with her. I remember sitting in an exact red light when I asked her, and I told her just that thing. I said, I'm really worried, like they're going to want to hire me, but they're literally going to, and it doesn't hurt my feelings. Like, doesn't hurt my feelings at all. But I just said, what about the goofball thing? And she goes, you know what? They're going to love you. They're going to love your enthusiasm. They're going to love your realism. And I literally take me to the airport. We drove her car around. She took me to the airport. I got in my car, and the rest was it. Once I had that affirmation that, no, actually, you're going to use that as a strength, changed everything for me.
But it's a unique ability that you have, though, to recognize that about yourself and then voice it. I think a lot of people would just automatically try to change themselves without asking somebody outside of themselves, hey, what do you think about this characteristic that I have? It's definitely, I think it's delightful. I love being around you because your energy is so good, and not everybody has that, but I can see where if you've embraced the fun side of yourself, you would have that question, because on HGTV, nobody's fun.
Exactly. I think one of the great characteristics someone can have, I coach this with my team occasionally, is self-awareness. You need to be self-aware. You're not perfect. You're going to get off track. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to, be self-aware. Don't just run straight ahead, not being yeah, exactly. So, God's given me that gift, and I've, love using it, and it's important to be self-aware. And that's really what got me kickstarted. But I'm also, maybe like you, I've never had a resume, even though, I interview for the job every single day as a realtor. I've never put a resume together. I've never been on a real job interview. I created my first path and then just recreated myself. As my wife will say, you just are amazing how you can just recreate. And so that's what I did 21 years ago.
Also, why we're not panicked about changes to rules in real estate, or changes to the structure, or changes in the legal landscape. You just kind of recreate and keep going, because we may as well.
Yeah. And no panic ever. There's
No.
no panicking in real estate, no crying in real estate.
I mean, tonight, I was going to say there's no crying in baseball, because tonight's opening night for our minor league team. And I'm so excited for opening night, because baseball's my jam. So now y'all will all know this was recorded on April 4th. So I had another question for you, though. As somebody who used more than my fair share of Aquanet in the 80s, what was your mall business?
Oh, we had some retail stores, one called Campus Lifestyles, had about 20 locations. It was like sportswear, Hawaiian, college. And this was in the 80s and 90s. So really obviously before internet, but before all the stores, and everything was out there. Walmart wasn't even in our field, basically, at that time. And then we had a store called Guitars and Cadillacs. And that was our Texas store. We did upscale Texas gifts, cowhide purses, salsas, gift baskets, kind of like an airport shop you would see today, but it was in the mall, and it was all about Texas. Everything was made in Texas, and they were a huge success. And it was an incredibly fun adventure. But 9/11 came around. Nobody went shopping. Nobody traveled. Nobody went to the mall. It was a real gut blow. And so I felt like God was just telling me, you're kind of running into this retail brick wall one or two or three too many times, because I'd kind of brought the business back and up and down through the, economic changes during that time period. And so that's when I retired. It took about 2 or 3 years to sell assets and do the right thing by all your employees and zip it up really tight. But it was difficult at the time, because that was my complete identity. My entire life was identified by that. So personally, it was a little bit difficult, but took some time, got it right, and never looked back.
And aren't you glad to have gotten out of that space at that time, instead of what's happened since COVID evenly. I mean, that was the end of a lot of the mall experiments. So
retail's changed so much, like no, now we would not be able to survive at all. I mean, it would be completely impossible. So, yeah, I'm very glad. I still have nightmares, believe it or not. I will have occasional nightmares that it's Christmas and I'm in the mall at one of our stores and we don't have any inventory. It's the crazy, and this is 20 years later, and I still have retail phobia, I guess, in some ways. It was years.
Christmas PTSD, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway.
Okay, so you talk about the taking care of things the right way. You talk about buttoning things up and closing it down right while you're taking care of everybody around you, which is a natural skill to take into real estate, because instead of taking care of employees, of course, you do have team members, but you take care of clients in a way that might take 2 or 3 years to go from when they think they want to sell the house until they finally get around to it. Would you say that I should ask that differently. What part of your skill set from your mall days do you think has translated most vibrantly with the clients you serve now?
That's a great question. I usually think of it more, Leigh, as marketing, my marketing piece. Like, we created a brand from scratch. We created the logos. We got them on signs. We got them in malls. We created a brand that was very recognizable. So that really was helpful, because when I got into real estate, I realized day one that Kent Redding, I am the brand. It doesn't matter what brokerage I'm with, where I'm hanging my hat. Everything I do, from how I let people in traffic and how I cut people off or whatever, is all about branding. And I taught that to my kids. When my kids were in high school and they're at the football stadium, where my sphere of influence is to some degree at that time. And we talked about family branding before they would leave the house. We would talk about, you're the Redding brand. So don't be acting the fool. Don't be at the stadium acting like a clown, a nuthead. And then the parents are going, that's that Redding child, And so they really took that to heart. And then they got older. That meant how you conducted yourself in college, how you conducted yourself around others, how you respected my son, how you respected women. There was a big part of it was about the Redding brand, and you're representing our family in everything you do. And that kind of grew out of retail, and then it grew into real estate. And that matters today in how I conduct myself with other agents and with clients. It's just really important how you treat people, listen well, respect well. And I would say I do it better as an agent than when I started. 10 years ago, I probably made a few mistakes by not returning some calls to other agents, maybe not being as respectable as I should. And I really learned that, I just did a shift, like, no, you're not going to be that guy. Stop it. And really embrace that the last 10 years. So now I make it just my mission to make sure everybody hears from me. Nobody gets left. No texts get left behind. I just think it's really important, because again, it's my legacy and my brand, right? A little bit. So it's important.
And I think it would solve a lot of what's going on in our society right now if more parents told their kids, our name matters and the way that you behave reflects on me. So then we might see our kids step up if they knew there was an expectation. I think kids need an expectation so that somebody says, you can do better, and I expect that of you. And then they will rise to that occasion. But if you give them nothing, they don't know where their loyalties are. They don't know how to behave and what standard to set. So I think your parenting advice there is good for all, because that level of respect is what we absolutely have to show to the world, especially in real estate. And then especially when we disagree about things, is all right, we're not going to devolve into ugliness. We're going to go ahead and respect each other, and I'm going to make my name look good. But now let's talk about this phone calls, because that's why I hate text, Ken. It's made me lazy. I'm the worst at returning phone calls now, because text is the easy way out. Now, of course, I have 4 phone calls that are backed up for after you and I finish up, but I miss the days of not having a crutch.
I do too. I like to talk to people when I can, but I think we're just learning in the practical sense of being an active practitioner. Text is shortcut. I got to get there. Now, I will tell people I'm not conducting business in text. Don't give me something I need to do 4 days from now. I'm late. I'll be there in a minute. What do you think? And if someone asks me something different, I'll say, email me that request.
Yes.
Hey, can you send me the seller's disclosure? You email that request to us and we'll get it done. So that, I try not to conduct business in there, and all that is permanent. That's all captured by whoever. Over time in real estate, you never know who's going to capture that. And so I'm really careful what I say inside a text message, right? And it's very important.
So if you're in real estate and you're listening to this podcast or watching it and thinking, man, I need some more Leigh Brown answers in my life. Well, guess what, friends? I have a new program that is launching right now called Answers.Real-Estate, where I will give you every bit of insight I have to help you grow your real estate business, help you better respond to consumers, to provide a more excellent real estate experience, so that the next time you land on crazy shit in real estate, you'll have a better solution to whatever you ran into. Answers.Real-Estate. There are monthly plans available. You will love it. Get your coaching. Sign up with me today.
Which we know, the ones of y'all that are listening out there, you're like, yes, Leigh and Kent, but if it's on voice, there is no record of it. We know that, but the beauty of a phone call is inflection and it's energy, and you can tell if somebody's in a rough spot. I was speaking to a buyer yesterday and it was really loud and I could barely hear him, but he had his little AirPods in. He didn't think I could hear all the ambient noise. And like, I don't even know if you can absorb what I'm telling you right now. He's like, what? I'm totally listening. Like, I can't think because you're in a loud place and we're not together. This is weird. I was like, so I just went ahead and talked. Then I followed it up with text. But especially what you mentioned about the way we have to coordinate today with the changes in real estate, the communication is the key. And I do think it's a difference between the seasoned old school realtors and the brand new ones, because the brand new ones don't necessarily understand how valuable their peers are going to be one day.
Yes, they don't know yet. They will learn, but they don't know. And I think the inflection's important. When you're talking to another agent or a client, it's so important. You can't be in front of them. You need to understand what their hot points are, what their concerns are, and you can and then that's our job. I always feel like I'm a chameleon. My job is to change colors, change and adapt to them and adapt to their style. And we really learned that back in, I hate to go back to retail, but in the retail days, I coached up my staff that when someone came in with a package in their hand that they're returning, they're walking in the room, guns loaded, ready for battle, because they think you as the clerk is going to battle about that. So my job is to coach them up. I wanted to be disarmed. I gave every staff member at the very, very, very bottom to make that refund. You don't got to call anybody. You don't got to call management. You disarm them by, sure, no problem. Let's take care of that right now. How would you like that done? And then they stand there, they don't know what to do, right? And that did translate well into real estate, I think, just learning how to disarm that situation and take care of it immediately at the lowest level. Because
so how Walmart got it from you then, because Walmart's the first big company that was and we'll take it all back policy. They stole it from you, Kent.
They did, yeah. Maybe
Nordstrom. Owe you royalties for that?
I don't think so.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
If Walmart Legal's watching, you owe Kent something for your return policy.
Yeah, Austin, Texas.
But it is the disarming piece. And how often have we seen agents that they want to fight because they think that's their job for their client. And you're like, oh, no, I'm the messenger here. I just wanted to let you know we got this sorted out. We're good. Yeah. And then they don't know what to make of. We're good.
Exactly. And then leveraging, like being past president, people recognize you a little bit more. So I think that's even more. I'm representing the board. I'm representing my faith too, right? I mean, there's a certain model that people, expectations they have for me. And I like to disarm other agents with, you know what, when we finish this transaction, I'm going to make you look like a rock star. And you can just hear this sigh on the other end because they're all geared up for whatever reason, right? And just put everybody at ease. And I often say, Leigh, when I'm talking to other agents, I said, we're not curing cancer here. We're just selling real estate. So let's settle down. Let's take a deep breath. Let's get to the finish line and land this plane safely and soundly. That's our job. And that seems to disarm everybody, kind of gets the transaction moving well.
Well, unless they're breaking the law, I may have had to tell an agent in a transaction that they were in violation of state law and a material breach of the contract. while my buyer still wants it, but we also know there's lines they can't cross. We do want to land the plane, but we need to land it with all its wheels intact and without TSA coming over and the FAA to arrest everybody inside the cockpit.
Or the DOJ.
Craziness. All right, so I'm fascinated by your past. I think our past stories tell so much about the way that we conduct ourselves in real estate and in leadership. But of course, in 21 years, and being in Texas, in Austin, which is was one of the fastest growing cities, and now it has cooled off a little. So you see the expansion, contraction, all those fun pieces. Dying to know what story you brought for the audience today to tell us what the crazy shit is you've seen in real estate.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually, this is true. I don't know if I have anything, and I was talking to my, one of my staffers, and she goes, "Oh, remember that time about the squatters and you broke into that house and had to call the police? Remember that time about the hoarders?" So I actually was able to, get this from her. But I would say one of my best stories was, I had a hoarder family, and we talk about hoarders. We talk about people that have cluttered houses and all that. This was legit. Like when I interviewed for the appointment, everything was stacked to the ceiling. There was just a path down the middle of the house, no place to sit. Super nice people. I mean, I'm still great friends with them. Great people, super nice. You would never know it on the street, but for whatever reason, over the years, stuff accumulated. Even in their garage, like the entry door to the house, you couldn't open because all the cardboard boxes from anything they'd ever bought was stacked up the ceiling. And it was a little shocking. And then how are we going to sell this house, right? So they were great. They were fantastic. They refer people to me all the time still. But what I did was I had them get out of the house. I put it online at a good price, right? I wanted to attract a lot of attention. And then we couldn't let people in but one at a time because there was no room to just open it up, right? And so I stood at the door with the timer on my iPhone, and we had a line, literally 30, 40 people down the street. And I'd let people in for 3.5 minutes. And I just hold them at the door, and I'd go, "Okay, go." Because there was nothing they were going to see that was going to alter their offer at the end of the day. Everything needed work. It was a 30-year-old house that everything needed work. So to wear me out with a bunch of zillion questions was not going to help them. And what was interesting was somebody came up to me and said, "Have you looked at Google?" And I go, "No." They showed me the Google map, and in front of the house we were at was one of the red lines about the traffic being backed up on the street. So I know. So I said, "Hey, can you take a screenshot and send that to me?" So they took a screenshot and they sent it to me. And now we use it in listing presentations of, "Hey, when we have an open house, this is what Google does." And we have the red line in front of the house. So it's just been a fun thing over the years.
I'm so jealous of that. And now I've got to figure out how to create a traffic jam in front of a listing so I too can have a red line on Google Maps. That is my new goal. New goal.
It is fun, for sure.
So your house did sell, I presume. Cash buyer.
Cash buyer. I put them in another house. They refer people all the time. Just great folks. It was just an unusual scenario, and we got her done. And I've had some squatter scenarios too, but where, you show up and someone's broken into the house and you go up to the door, and I'm like, I'm not much afraid of anything. I'm like, I probably. And then little guy just said, "No, maybe not. Call the police. Call the police." They show up. Next thing I know, guns are drawn. It's, meth, drugs. And I hear them go, "Down on the floor, down on the floor." And then I'm like, okay, good thing. But
did you get
not
down
too many
when they said that?
You what?
Did you get down when they said get down on the floor?
I was in the car like this. I was down like this in the car. I'm kind of a rule follower. So when I heard them say, "Get down," I was like, okay, I'm down. But I'm in my car.
I would have done the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Do y'all have squatter legislation in Texas?
We do have some, and we have some that new that pushing through. This was more of a true squatter environment. They've moved in. They've legally taken some action to be there. They've been there a couple of days.
Okay.
Transients off the street. You call the police, and they took care of it. So that was fine. But I'm very comfortable. One good thing that's helped me in these environments is I do a lot of work on the streets and with homeless, and so I feel very comfortable walking up and just talking to people and finding out what their name is. And to me, it just changes everything. I think we often go by intersections and we don't You look, and I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it, not making eye contact. And I've just learned that once you stop and carry on a conversation and get to know somebody's name, it changes everything. I mean, they become a person. And anyway, that's having that gift to be able to walk out on the streets actually helps in retail sometimes. I mean, I'm sorry, in real estate sometimes as well.
Well, it helps in retail too. It helps in all angles of life, having that
Yes.
the
Yes, it
personal
does.
experience.
Hmm.
And I'm struck by how you talk about the hoarder situation because you have the high level of empathy for the hoarding is not a reflection of them being bad or wrong in any way. We know if you're truly a student, y'all, you do some research on hoarding, you will find it is a mental health condition. And it's
100%.
nothing to do with the stuff really. It's just the inability to function without piles of stuff in a house. And so a hoarder house has become a punchline with that stupid TV show about hoarders, which is just I don't feel like it's kind. And in real estate, we know it's going to reduce the price of the house. It's going to create a discount because of the situation, but the humans are not the bad guys. They just have something going on in their life. And I love your very open humanity about that. And if my real estate agents watching this take anything away, it is take a step back from the judgment of the people whose house you've been invited into.
Yeah. And don't watch it on TV. That's just sensationalizing it. It
It's
really is
horrible.
a mental and sometimes people don't have mental health support. And I would say if you judge that, go ask someone to open your junk drawer in your house and go, hey, what about this? And you're gonna, oh yeah, there's all those candy bars and paper clips and all that. But I think just like on the streets, mental health, some people just don't have a safety net. Like if you and I had some issue that we got off track a little bit, we're not gonna fall. Leigh, we're not going to fall street. We have family, we have friends, we have support staff, we have community around us. And those on the streets that live in the margins, they're just the same as us. They just happen not to have that support around them. And they have this chronic loss of community and this chronic loss of family, and they end up there. And I think it's important when we address that situation to learn that, housing doesn't cure homelessness.
Nope.
People, community, that cures homelessness. And I think that agents and realtors having that attitude, not only, in society, but also with their clients, just understanding they're the same as you. They may have a different background. They may have a different support structure than you do. So empathy, well, I know you, Leigh. We lead with that. I mean, day one, that's what you walk in the room with. And it sure makes the path smoother and more gratifying for sure.
And it means that we can go to bed at night. We just might have to wake up in a cold sweat over Christmas PTSD, which is a whole different thing.
Whole different thing. We don't want to go there.
You're going to have to find you a little Facebook support group for that. But there probably is one. I mean, let's just be honest, Kent. There's a Facebook group for everything.
Yes, there is for sure. I'm not going to look.
Yeah, no, because that'll throw you back into more of the tales of the past. All right. So before we wrap up our time together, you've been a top producing agent for a long time, well respected in your community, and yet you chose to invest so much of your time and energy volunteering for your local board of realtors. A, do you think it was a valuable use of your time? And B, what was the best outcome that's happened in your life because of volunteering in realtor world?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that for me, I was just uneducated. I didn't know anything about volunteer, advocacy at the board, advocacy for our membership. I honestly, don't tell anybody. I'd never been in the building, the Austin Board of Realtors building. Never been in the building. 10 years.
And
I
it's
was just
nice.
I was one of those agents that just wrote the check and went, well, I guess this is what I got to do to get that MLS access to sell homes. I don't know what they do with it. And then write the check. And then someone invited me and asked me, hey, would you think about running for the board? Have you ever thought about that? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm not qualified, never been in the building. Where is the board? Maybe I should find it first and then consider running. And so I ran, got elected. It is literally one of the most life-giving things I have ever done in my life. And I'm telling you that with all my heart and soul. First of all, I've created friendships and relationships that I've never had. Here I am, middle-aged, and I have never had, middle-aged. People live to be 150 now, right, Leigh? No, here I am.
We're medium. We're medium. We know what the
Medium.
middle is.
Medium age. That first of all, best relationships ever. Complete 360 respect for how important associations are to our industry. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for that now. And most people just don't know. Once they know and they get in, and I call it get in the building. I mean, I'm using that as a figurative term, but once they get in, show up at a broker open house, show up at a broker meeting, find out what ABOR does or what your association does. It changes everything. They're not the devil. They're not out to get you, right? Like a lot of people think, but that's just because they don't know. And that's really on us. That's on us as the leaders to educate them. So during my presidency, and since I've been on the board 8 years now, I invite every idea that we can come up with that gets realtors into the building, literally at some event, always pays off because they'll walk out the door going, wow, I had no idea. And so for me, that's been the most eye-opening, the most rewarding, that I just so appreciate staff. Like, you don't even see the staff. They're back there working their tails off behind the scenes, delivering for membership. We have 20,000 members, and they do it at such a high level and such a great job. Some of our staff, and they're amazing. And so my leadership skills have improved dramatically from being here. And so I really, one of the married babies, ABOR. One of the 3 top things I've ever done in my life. And I'm dead serious about that. And I've been married 36 years. So that's saying a lot.
That's a pretty big accomplishment right there.
It is. Yeah. You know me. So it's a big accomplishment for my wife.
I mean, it's sainthood. Let's just call it what it is.
It is. It is.
So, Ken, if anybody wants to reach out to you to find out more about the Texas real estate markets that you deal in, to find out more about your real estate brokerage and teams and that coaching leadership stuff, or they want to talk to you about volunteer leadership in Austin or beyond, what's the best way for them to find you?
Hey, I'm super easy to find, Leigh. They can just Google me, Google Kent Redding. There I am, or at Kent Redding. I'm on all the social platforms. So easy, super easy to find, and love to talk to people. One of my favorite things is just going to coffee with agents, checking into their lives, new agents, medium agents, just whatever the case may be, finding out what's going on in their world. So I am always available for coffee and community, no matter where you are in your career. And it's not about recruiting. I don't recruit agents, but I love to visit with agents and I love to get to know their lives. So, obviously, same way with clients, if you're referring anybody, but Kent Redding, easy to find.
And of course, all of Kent's contact information is in the show notes for this episode. So if you were sweating to the oldies and didn't get it written down, no stress. Click back on the episode and go to the notes. In the meantime, say something nice about Kent down in the comments. And I really appreciate you coming on the show, my friend. I'm so glad to see you remotely, and I can't wait to get a big hug next time I see you in person.
Leigh, I love you. Thank you so much, girl. Appreciate you.
I love you too, my friend. All right, y'all, hit the bell to subscribe. Come back and see us next time. And have a wonderful one.
By the way, friends, don't miss my brand new coaching program at answers.realestate, where you can have access to Leigh Brown, submit your questions, have them answered, meet like-minded professionals, have an entire library to help you build your business no matter what happens in the market. Get signed up today. I promise you'll be glad you did. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.